Welcome back, everyone. The Trump administration is withdrawing from UNESCO, the UN agency that fosters educational, scientific, cultural collaboration. UNESCO says it had anticipated this decision and it is prepared. The move will not take effect until late next year. And I want to get back to talk a bit about UNESCO and its the task of really recognizing, restoring, and preserving historic sites, heritage sites all around the world. And the United States now saying that it's going to pull out of the organization in 2026. For more on that controversial move, we're now joined by Bill Crane. He is a political analyst and principal at CSI Crane. Bill, thanks very much. Donald Trump did this in his first term in office. Let's begin with what UNESCO is, its role globally, and why it is so critical to protecting heritage sites.
Well, there are places around the world, whether we're talking about religious places in the Middle East or places that were beginnings of democracy in other parts of the world, that need to be protected, that need to be saved, that need to be preserved. And the United Nations and the UNESCO have been two organizations that have taken the point of the spear there. But as we are well aware, and I know CGTN viewers are all too familiar, the Trump administration has been keenly focused on immigration policy and foreign aid, and playing to a portion of their base that seems to believe that any money spent outside of the United States is not serving the needs that are domestically continuing to skyrocket: housing costs, homelessness, healthcare within the United States. And although we do live in a global economy and world, whether you're talking about his tariff and trade policies or the closure of USAID,
Right.
the president has been leading the country in a kind of a xenophobic, insular direction that we haven't really seen since right after World War I.
And really, the argument from so many people, it is so short-term focused. It's not looking at the big picture, the long play, if you will. So talk about how the U.S. exit from UNESCO could dramatically affect this organization from a financial standpoint.
I believe we're in the top 3 funders of UNESCO. We are the largest funder of the United Nations. Of course, the United Nations itself sits in New York within view of Trump Tower.
Yeah.
And the president has talked about, I don't believe it'll happen, but has talked about withdrawing the United States from the United Nations. It wasn't something he campaigned on, but as he's going through political stress and duress on the Jeffrey Epstein case here domestically, and we know the velocity with which the Trump administration moves, it seems that they're just lobbing grenades and some public and foreign policy issues to distract and move voters and critics in a different direction and off of this Epstein case, which is not going to go away.
So let's get off the Epstein case for just a minute, though, and really kind of focus on the nuts and bolts of UNESCO, why it is so important. And for Trump, he really seems to treat every decision like it's a business deal going down. But it's impossible to put a price tag on the value of these rare sites that dot the globe. And secondly, what is this going to mean for American World Heritage sites?
Well, not only what it means for Americans, tourism, historic preservation, what it means and what it says about America's priorities in the world. We're also seeing in other areas, China and Russia coming in behind the United States when the United States withdraws, whether it's weapons and military assistance or food assistance or financial assistance. That vacuum will be filled. And one of the ways the United States became the great world power that it is post-World War II is helping nations rebuild, helping preserve historic sites. And UNESCO has been integral in that since World War II.
Yeah.
And our withdrawal from the world, the greater economy, our tariff battles with the EU and some of our allies. We just did come to an agreement with Japan, but our largest 3 trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and Japan, we've been battling with as if they're the enemy for 4 to 6 weeks, and it just makes no sense to those of us who've been around for a while.
Yeah, and Trump really likes to boast, and we heard him again today, that the United States has never been more respected than under his administration. Talk about the impact that this decision is going to have on international perception of the U.S. as a cultural destination and as a nation that the world can turn to do the right thing.
The United States has been a beacon of liberty and other things really since World War I, but most decidedly since World War II. And we're running away from many of those things that made us a beacon. We are acting as if they are no longer important for us to be a melting pot, have birthplace citizenship. And in the near term, we may be among the more feared nations, but respected, I can't say I agree with that adjective. And when I hear foreign leaders, as well as I travel pretty good internationally and domestically, when I hear them speaking of the Trump administration, the words they're using are bullying, bravado, braggadocio, not helpful, supportive, and our friend, the United States of America.
You know, I've been to some really off the beaten path kind of places in my life, and I think in Afghanistan I've seen a number of UNESCO sites that were simply decimated during fighting, whether it's internal civil war or by the Taliban or other insurgents like the Bamiyan Buddhists, for example. And you look at those sites and you think about how important they've always been and what a source of pride they are, and the fact that other generations should be able to see these. How might cities and states in the U.S. Is there any way to kind of push back on this and say, look, UNESCO is important to the United States, it is important to its reputation, and the United States needs to remain in this organization? Do you ever see that happening at all under this administration?
Congressional leadership may fight back. There may be Nikki Haley was the United Nations ambassador in the first Trump administration. There may be other former Trump supporters will step forward, but he's so vengeful when people publicly disagree with him that most Republicans are afraid to do that. Democrats will push back. But there have been so many areas of government, so many institutions, Columbia University here in the United States settling a disagreement and paying a $200 million fine for not doing enough to protect their citizens from anti-Semitic protests over the Israeli war. It's a very difficult navigation to have public policy discussions and keep them civil when so many chess pieces are being taken off the board simultaneously.
Indeed. Bill Crane, some real thoughtful answers there, a lot to chew on. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Take care, Sean.